Brain death concept. Brain death concept broadly divided into cerebral death and brain stem death. Cerebral death also causes persistent vegetative state, where the higher levels of cerebral activity are selectively lost either from hypoxia, toxic insult, or trauma. The victim will exist in a vegetative state. A person is deemed to be in a vegetative state when he/she is in a deep coma with spontaneous breathing and stable circulation, but is unaware of his own existence and of world. The victim remains in deep coma almost indefinitely. The complication may well shorten life. Complications such as postural skin necrosis, muscle contractions, and secondary chest infections. Persistent vegetative states are not considered dead by most standards. A fraction of the medical professionals who claim that because of irreversible loss of their awareness of themselves and of the world around them, they can no longer be considered human beings, so-called living cadavers. Euthanasia, mercy killing, is advocated for such patients. Second, broadly broad classification is the brain stem death. When brain death is spread below the tentorium, that is brain stem, midbrain, pons, upper medulla. When brain stem suffers neural damage, the loss of the vital centers that control respiration and of the ascending reticular activating system that sustain consciousness causes the victim not only to be irreversibly comatose but also to be incapable of spontaneous breathing. Without medical intervention, hypoxic cardiac arrest inevitably follows within minutes, and then the usual progression of cellular death ensues. Thus, the brainstem death, almost all doctors in most of the jurisdiction now accept that once irreversible damage to the brainstem has been proved, the patient is dead in a somatic sense. However, not yet dead in the cellular sense. And it's through this physiological window cadaver donor transplant surgery have been made. Medico-legal importance of brainstem death. Previously, number of fatal assaults were defended in court of law on the basis that the original head injuries led to the victim being placed on the life support machines that were later disconnected when brainstem death was diagnosed. The defense was that the assailant did not kill the victim because death was caused by the action of doctors to switching off the ventilator or switching off the respiratory machine. So concept of brain death is widely nowadays accepted, in which first, death was diagnosed by the doctors before discontinuing artificial ventilation, and second, it is the criminal act that initiated the train of events was not remote enough to avoid culpability for the death. Assailant is responsible for all the consequences occurred on the patient injured. Code of practice concerning the diagnosis of brain death. Patient must be in deep coma, and treatable causes of coma must be excluded. For example, intoxication, hypothermia, hypovolemia, metabolic and endocrine disturbance, myxedema, diabetic mellitus, overdosage of sedative hypnotics. So, the treatable causes of coma must be excluded. Second, patient must be on mechanical ventilation. And neuromuscular blocking agents and any courier like drugs must be excluded as a possible cause of respiratory failure. Number third, a firm diagnosis on the basis of pathology must be available. A diagnostic test for brainstem death must be positive and should be determined by two doctors, physician in charge of the patient and an independent doctor. Note that none of the doctors from the transplantation team. The diagnostic test must be repeated at least 4 to 6 years. Repeated once, the diagnostic test must be repeated once with an interval of 4 to 6 years. The diagnosis of brainstem reflexes. All brainstem reflexes are absent. Persistence of spinal reflexes are irrelevant in diagnosis of brainstem death. Fixed, dilated, and unreactive pupils. Corneal reflexes are absent. Oculocephalic reflex is negative. Oculo-vestibulo-ocular reflex is negative. Vestibulo-ocular reflex by putting cold water or warm water in the ears. I will show the picture. What is the normal response, positive response? No motor response to painful stimuli. No gag reflex mediated through the ninth cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal. No respiratory movement when disconnected from ventilator. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more than 15 millimeter of mercury, because this is the stimulus for the respiratory center, carbon dioxide. Testing must be performed with a body temperature not less than 35 to exclude hypothermia. Prerequisites: normotension, normothermia, euvolemia, and eucapnia. The corneal reflex. fixed, dilated, unreactive pupil. Vestibulo-ocular reflex with the cold water, with the warm water. Look at the position of the pupil. This is a positive reflex in a living person. In dead person, the reflex is negative. Positive oculocephalic reflex. The direction of rotation causes movement in the pupil. So this is also negative. Gag reflex, touching of the uvula, causes gag reflex. Medico-legal importance of death. In my last lecture, I defined all the declaration, certification, notification, and registration of death, disposal of dead body, and organ transfer. But today we discuss death certification in detail. Death certification. This is a format, international format, the WHO format for death certification. How a doctor determines death is a matter of individual, local, national, or of international choice. Some simply inspect, some palpate, some auscultate, and others require flat ECG or EEG. If a doctor knows the cause of death and the cause of death is natural and without any suspicion, he may issue death certificate. In some countries, the doctor must have seen and treated the patient before death. Whereas in other countries, any doctor who has seen, examined the body after death may issue death certificate. This WHO format death certificate is divided into two parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 describes the condition that led directly to the death, the immediate cause of death. And second part, for other conditions contributing death that led indirectly to the death. Part 1, the condition directly leading to death, and part 2, the conditions indirectly leading to death are contributing factors. Part 1 of the format of death certificate is further divided into subsection 1A, 1B, and 1C. 1A is a disease condition directly leading to death. 1B is a disease condition leading to A, known as antecedent causes. And C, other disease condition, if any, leading to B. It is the lowest in the part 1. It is the lowest in the part 1, that is the C. That is most important, as it is the primary pathological condition, the start of the event leading to death. This is helpful in knowing the mortality statistics. It is not necessary to complete part 1 A, 1B, 1C are part 2. If there is no predisposing condition, it is sufficient to record the cause of death as 1A, intracranial hemorrhage in a healthy individual. If the same patient survived for a few days and had chest infection and died, then part 1A is bronchopneumonia and 1B is cerebral hemorrhage. Part 2. The other significant conditions contributing to the death but not causally related to immediate cause A. That is part 1A. This part 2 is often more problematic and is commonly used as something of a dustbin to record all, many, or some of the disease affecting the patient at the time of death. Part 2 is most often used for the elderly in whom multiple pathologies may well have contributed to the death. For example, part 1A, peritonitis is the immediate cause of death, 2 days. The B, that leading to A, is a perforation of duodenum, 4 days. And C, that leading to B, antecedent cause, duodenal ulcer from last 6 months. Part 2, epithelioma of skin of cheek is not related to the immediate cause of death, but another pathology. A adult dying of shock following cholecystectomy, chronic nephritis also being present. So we fill the death certificate in part 1A, post-operative shock 3 years, cholecystectomy 4 years, gallstones 6 months, chronic nephritis in a part 2. So it is the lowest in the part 1, which is important as a mortality statistics, which initiate the events of train of events. A part 1A, pulmonary embolus due to hip fracture. C, falling from the height leading to hip fracture, immobilization, DVT, increased chances of deep vein thrombosis, leading to A, the immediate cause of death as a pulmonary emboli. A part 2, osteoporosis. In osteoporosis, there may be increased chances of fractures. The death certificate is an important document, but information on them may be unreliable, incomplete, or incorrect. A doctor may deliberately give false information when doctor does not want family members to disclose the disease or condition from which the patient died, for example, syphilis, HIV, autoerotic asphyxia, or when the doctor is dishonest, he may be hiding his clinical incompetence, or more worst, he may be concealing homicide. Death certificate is an important document, but not practiced usually, routinely in our hospital setups. Thank you very much.